Hey everyone, I thought it'd be helpful to go through some of the problems, the brief exercises in this chapter, so that you can kind of see the concepts in action, especially the way the costs flow and such. So here we go. We've got Berg & Company. We're issuing materials. So they don't actually take us to the step, that first one where we bought the raw materials. Instead, we're taking those materials and we're putting them into production. So we've got purchased on account 10,000 units of raw materials. Oh, I'm lying to you. We are buying the materials first. During May, raw materials were requisitioned for production as follows. 7,500 went to this job at $8 a unit, and 1,480 went to this job at $5 a unit. And so they want you to journalize the entry to record the purchase, first the purchase, and then to record the requisition for the material storeroom. So I'm going to kind of keep this on the side in T accounts. So really your first thing is you're buying materials, right? So let's, may not be pretty, but it'll be here. Materials. So you're buying $80,000 worth of materials. That's what they're saying. $10,000 at $8 a unit. So you're buying $80,000 in materials. So your journal entry for that is easy, right? It's a debit to materials, credit to accounts payable. Nothing unusual there. But now we're going to put it into a WIP. Now, the way Cengage has you do it, they do this into one WIP, and they just call it WIP. I'm going to say we keep them separately in our notes anyway. WIP 200, WIP 305? 305. So we're going to take material, it tells us 7,500 units at $8 per unit, so 7,500 times 8 there is 60,000. And we're going to put $60,000 in direct materials in here, right? Direct materials. And we're going to take another $1,480 at $5, which is $7,400 in materials here. And so that will be a credit to materials of $67,400. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm tracking my direct material. I'm tracking all my costs by job. Trust me, I've done this a few times. It makes sense to do it this way. All right. But when you go to input it into Cengage, if you have a problem that's similar to this, what they want you to do, let me move this out of the way, is they'll have you just do it in its entirety. Debit to WIP, credit to materials for the full total. But I know, because I've done this before, that they're going to ask you at the end what the total cost was for job 200 and job 305. So I'm going to keep them separate in our notes. Okay, so moving on. Direct labor costs. All of these build off of each other. It says during May, they accumulated 2,500 hours of direct labor costs on job 200, 3,000 on 305. And they tell you what the rate is, $28 per hour for job 200 and $24 per hour for job 305, right? So the idea is you're going to multiply these. You would just simply multiply 2,500 hours times 28, which is $70,000. 70,000 in direct labor to this job. And you're looking at 3,000 hours times $24 for job 305. So there's 72,000 in here. 72,000 direct labor. Okay, so what we're doing is we're accumulating costs in the WIP, which is kind of the whole point of this thing, right? So here you go. Our journal entry is just a debit to work in process, debit to work in process, debit to work in process. I've got it broken out into the two parts, and a credit to wages payable. Okay, factory overhead. Well, factory overhead costs, we're accumulating them. Remember, factory overhead is kind of like a giant bucket of costs, where we're putting all of the costs of making the products that are not direct materials and direct labor. So the first thing that they tell you is that you've taken $8,800 out of indirect materials. Well, that means it still comes out of materials. Oops, 8,800. And that comes on down here. That's there things like, I don't know, sandpaper, oil, things that it doesn't make sense to quantify. So we put it into factory overhead overall. And indirect labor, same idea, right? This could be the person doing the mopping of the floors. This could be the person running the plant. That's going to be your indirect labor, $6,600 there. Oops, I just got rid of my little notepad. Okay. Utilities, cost of $4,800. So we're going to have utilities in here. 4,800, right? Because electricity is servicing everyone. And factory depreciation of 9,000. So it's really like I said, a giant bucket of costs if you want to think about it like that. All right, so our journal entry is going to be a debit to factory overhead as you see what we're doing, and then a credit to all the different payables, if you will. So what that looks like, here we go, debit to factory overhead for all the amounts together, credit to materials, that's coming from here of 8,800, credit to wages payable for the indirect labor, utilities payable, accumulated depreciation. Okay, so there's your, those would be the credits to all the different accounts. I'm not including those here because why would I? Really just focused on the inventory flow, but those would be the different credits. All right, so this is a part we have not talked about yet. We have not talked about how do we decide how much comes out of factory overhead over here, right? How do we decide how much comes out of factory overhead and goes into the different WIPs? Like, what's the math there? Well, very commonly they use direct labor hours. So the idea being, if a job takes 1 hour to do, it accumulates so much factory overhead. But if a job takes 100 hours to do, then it should have a much higher level of factory overhead. Okay, so direct labor hours is a very typical one, and that's what they use in this example. So the first thing you have to do is you kind of have to come up with a rate. So the rate is calculated. You're dealing to calculate the rate in this problem. It's going to be total. This is total factory overhead really expected for the year, divided by direct labor hours for the year. Hours. For the year. That's hours. That looks terrible, but that's hours. Okay, so what they tell you is they say that factory overhead costs are expected to be for the year, this is an estimate, of 620,000. And the direct labor hours are estimated to be 80,000. So over the whole year, you're looking at a rate of $7.75 per direct labor hour. So what this means is if a job takes 1 hour, then it's going to have $7.75 of factory overhead costs. If it takes 2 hours, it's going to have, what is that, $15.50 worth of direct labor cost, right? So this is the rate that we're going to be using. All right. So now job 200, if we look back to job 200, and you have to look up a couple of problems here. Job 200 had 2,500 hours. Okay, here, I'll do it. I'll show you. Job 200 had 2,500 hours. Job 300 had 3,000 hours. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 2,500 times 775 and 3,000 times 775 to go into the WIP for job 305. So we're taking that rate and we're multiplying it times the direct labor hours. Okay, so there's your math. So that's going to be 19,375 for this job, and it's going to be 23,250 for this job of factory overhead. Okay, and the total of those two is going to come out of here, which I'm not even going to pretend to do the math. Oh, 46,625. There you go. 42,625 based on what the number is over on the answers. So it's some's going to come here, and some of it's going to come here. Okay, so that's how we're pulling these out of here. So our journal entry, debit to work in process, and I again have it broken out by the two different jobs, and a credit to factory overhead for the full amount. All right, so now that we've finished, now we're going to finish the job. Oh, so this is the part where they're asking us. They're saying, how much did this job cost you? Well, we're going to add them all up. So I'll add up the cost of job 200 and job 305 to figure out how much it cost me to make this product, whatever this might be. And I might think I'm going to erase the arrow here a little bit because it's kind of in my way. I'm going to erase this arrow a little bit because same reason, it's kind of in my way. Okay, let me go back to my pencil. So if I added these three up, the direct material, direct labor, and factory overhead, the total cost for job 200 was 149, and I have no idea why my pencil shape changed, 149, 375. 375. And the total cost for this one, 102,650. Okay, so that's the question they ask you in this one. They ask you the balance on the job cost sheets for the jobs. And they ask you one other thing, the cost per unit for jobs 200 and 305. Well, if job 200 was 2390 units and it cost 149,375, what we're going to do is we're going to divide that to figure out the unit cost by how many it made, right? So this was the total cost for the job, and it was 2390 units. And that will equal, I'm going to cheat now and look at my answer key, $62.50 per unit. Whereas this one, job 305, cost me $102,650 to make, and it made 2,053 units. Okay, that's in the data on the other side. And that comes out to be, nice round number, $50 per unit. Okay, so that's how that works. All right, I hope that helped. Good luck to you. Job order costing, like I said, if you're going to spend some time on something, spend some time on job order costing, because there's a lot more going on in the process costing section. Have a good night, day, whenever whenever you're listening to this.